If one believes quantum theorists that innumerable further universes and dimensions could be beside our own universe. But not only quantum physicists claim such things. Also, quite normal humans report from stays in other worlds. These 10 spooky stories show that dimensional travel can happen anywhere on the planet, and that you too can find yourself in another dimension in the next moment. 1. Death message from another world. Already our first story gets under your skin, so hold on tight, because what this woman experienced, you surely don't want to have in your life. The woman suddenly started having strange dreams. One night, she dreamed that a person she knew fleetingly was going to die. 3 days later, this person was dead. A short time later, she dreamed the death of a colleague at work, and this woman also died 3 days after the dream. This nightmare repeated itself several more times. In total, 9 times this woman dreamed of the death of a known or even beloved person, and exactly 3 days later, this person died. The story became public after the woman sought psychological help. A scientist had explained to the woman that it could be that while she sleeps in this world, she witnesses the death of this person in another world that is 3 days ahead of ours. Then, when she wakes up in this world, she knows about the event because it has already happened in the other world. That's really creepy, isn't it? 2. The completely changed hometown. A woman named Carol Chase McElney decided to visit her old hometown. As she drove down her old street, she couldn't find the house she grew up in. But not only did this house look different, all the houses on the street seemed strangely changed. Carol decided to drive to the street where her grandmother used to live, but when she got there, that street looked completely different too. As she continued to drive through the town, she noticed that almost everything was changed. Even the cemetery where her grandparents were buried was no longer there. Where once there had been a thriving boulevard with restaurants and warm hotels, there was now a rundown area covered with graffiti. Carol felt very uncomfortable and drove back home. Fearing she would be thought crazy, she kept quiet at first. A few years later, Carol's father died, and he had wanted to be buried with his parents. Carol went back to her old hometown, and there, strangely enough, was the cemetery again, and all the other buildings were almost the same as when Carol had been a child. Since that experience, Carol has been convinced that on her first trip to the old hometown, she had passed through a dimensional gateway into another world that was similar, but also different. 3. The boy who has lived before. A young boy in the US shocked his mother when he suddenly said, "When I was a girl, I had black hair and earrings like that." The mother wondered where the little boy got these crazy ideas. When Luke's remarks in this direction did not stop, the mother asked him about it. The answer nearly blew the mother's mind. Little Luke from Ohio claimed rock solid to have lived before. In another life, his name was Pam. Luke told that in his past life he had died, gone to heaven, and then been born again. Luke's mother was confused at first, then decided to put the boy to the test. Luke told that he had died in a fire in Chicago. He said he jumped out of a building in March 1993. The mother checked the information and found out something unbelievable. A fire in March 1993 had really killed 19 people, including a woman in her 30s named Pamela Robinson. Pam had jumped to her death from a window. Luke could immediately recognize Pam from a photo. "That was me," the little boy said, and everyone was shocked. The boy went on to recount details of Pam's life that were confirmed by relatives of the young woman who was still alive. Amazingly, little Luke also had a very special talent. Although he was only 5 years old, he could play the guitar very well, and he loved to play songs by Stevie Wonder. Pam could also play the guitar very well, and 3 guesses, yes, she loved all Stevie Wonder songs. After Luke's story was confirmed and it was clear that he had lived before, the parents and everyone involved had to slightly adjust their beliefs, because the story proves that there must be other worlds beside ours where deceased people are at home when they are not on Earth. 4. The Baroque Hut in the forest. A few years ago, a woman was camping with her friends when they heard music coming from the forest. The group followed the sound and came upon a small stone hut. As they approached the cabin, they saw people dressed in 17th century fashion. One of the friends was intrigued and went to the hut to enter. As she was about to enter, one of her friends pulled her away. Just as the woman crossed the threshold, the half that was about to enter the hut became paralyzed. Para-researchers assume that the young woman partially entered another dimension and that her nervous system experienced a shock due to the different times, which caused half of her body to become paralyzed. 5. The disappeared professor. Now it gets even creepier, as a well-known faculty member at the University of the Andes disappeared without a trace on campus, probably into another dimension. Several witnesses that day saw the popular professor leave the university building, stroll across the parking lot, and then get into his car. Some students had actually waved to the man. When the car did not start for a long time, the students wanted to see if everything was all right with the professor. But when they got to the car, it was empty. The man's bag was on the passenger seat and the key was in the ignition, but there was no trace of the man. Since he never reappeared and no one had seen the man leave the campus on foot or otherwise, it is assumed that he was moved to another dimension in his car and cannot return from there. 6. The Time Traveler. Alexander Smith was a strange man who appeared on the internet several years ago. The man claims that he traveled to the year 2118 and brought back valuable information for us from there. The man, who saw the Earth in 100 years, reported social and societal changes, the decline of political systems, wars over water, and economic monopolies. Supposedly, Smith was sent into the future by a secret organization of the US government to find out if the US can become the absolute world power. That's absolutely crazy, but also kind of cool. If I had met Smith, I would have liked to know if Elon Musk really made it to Mars and if we can leave all the work to robots in the 22nd millennium thanks to quantum computing. What would you like to have known about someone who was 100 years in the future? Let us know in the comments at the end of the video. 7. The City from Another World. This multiple peer-reviewed story will tug at your nerves. 4 university students were on their way back from a rodeo in Utah in May 1972. Just outside their hometown, the 4 decided to take a shortcut, which would prove to be a serious mistake. While they were driving through the woods on what they thought was a familiar road, it suddenly changed. The once paved road turned to gravel and became impassable. So they had to drive all the way back the way they had just come. However, as they did so, they noticed that the path had changed. Suddenly, they saw something shining in the distance. They drove towards it and found themselves at a strange building with a neon sign. The neon sign was in a language neither of them recognized. As they approached the building to ask for help, strangely tall men approached them. These beings were not friendly, but seemed confused and angry. One came close to the car of the 4, and one of the girls screamed. The big man did not seem human, so they drove away quickly. As they drove away, the young people saw strange egg-shaped vehicles following them. They drove as fast as they could until they lost the vehicles. According to the statement to the police, the group was tested several times by experts. All 4 passed a polygraph test, and thus it was clear that these people had really experienced this. We may not have to look for other worlds in the cosmos. Possibly, the next alien world starts right next door. 8. The Green Children of Woolpit. The Green Children of Woolpit belong to the classics of dimension stories. In the 13th century, 2 strange children appeared in the village of Woolpit in England. They were brother and sister, had a strange greenish skin color, spoke an unknown language, and wore strange clothes. They did not know English food. All they ate was raw beans. The boy died and the girl survived. When she learned English, the girl told about her life in a country called St. Martin. There, the sun never shone. There was diffused light, and all the people had green skin. The girl knew Jesus Christ, but she had never heard of Easter or Christmas. The children had come to Woolpit after they had run into a cave while herding sheep. When they came out of the cave again, they were no longer in St. Martin, but in England. 9. Other parents in another dimension? A Reddit user by the name of Professional Echo 348 shared an unusual story. When he went to the clerk's office to apply for a birth certificate, it said his mother's middle name was Victoria, but in reality, the woman's middle name was Virginia. So he asked the clerk what was going on, because the applicant was able to produce an old document that clearly stated that the mother's middle name was Virginia. Unfortunately, the mother had died 17 years ago and the error could not be corrected. But then things got even stranger. Because the records stated that the mother was married to a man named Pierce, which was also incorrect. The man's name was Pierre, not Pierce. Had the Reddit user crossed universes when he crossed the threshold into the office? Or were there just sloppy caseworkers at work here? 10. The disappeared OneEuro store. Another Reddit user named NoBookkeeper3991 shared a story about hitchhiking to the OneEuro store in his town one day. It was only a few minutes' drive, but the men couldn't find it. The store was suddenly not there. In fact, the whole street looked different. The driver and the man who shared the story both noticed how the street had changed strangely. Then, in an instant, everything changed before their eyes and the two panicked. For a few moments, both had the impression of driving through a parallel universe. The man had himself taken home, and his street was fortunately still there. After a few days, the OneEuro store also reappeared, and everything was as before. What do you say now? Have you ever had a similar experience, and how do you generally think about the probability of parallel universes and other dimensions?